Hey everybody, it's Joe from Britical Saiyans here, and today I'm going to be showing you the Brody swap deck profile. One thing I'm going to say outright now is I don't have the one drop promo for this deck, just because it's really expensive and I don't want to pay for it. Considering, on average, one copy is going to cost me about £25. Which I'm not sure that is in dollars. I think that's around $27. I don't know conversion rates, so I'm not going to quickly Google it. So I'm just going to say now, I don't have it in here, but I will say what I would put in here when I get into the battle cards, because it's only fair I do that. If you're trying to use this build as a basis, you then know what I'd replace for it. So start with, we'll go into the leader card. So it's got two active mains. The first being, once per turn, you can add a card from your life to your hand and you gain critical for the turn. And his second active main is you can add up to one red extra card with an energy cost of 1 from your deck to your hand, shuffle your deck, then negate the skill for the game. So kind of like the green one, which searches a 1-drop battle card, this is a 1-drop extra card, and then that gets negated for the game, so that you can't just kind of dig through your deck like, oh, I want to add this one, because yeah, it would just let you thin out your deck every turn, and instead of it being a searcher, it's just an outright grab it. So, and then when your life's at 4 less, you get 2 energy back and flip him over into this side. So he has the permanent of, if you have a red Brody BR card in play, he gains critical. His first auto is, when this card attacks, you draw a card, and then he gains 5k power for the battle. So he becomes a 20k crit as long as you have Brody in play, which is the whole point of the deck, so it's pretty simple. And his auto is, you choose a card in your hand and discard it. When one of your red Brody BR cards is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, you choose up to one red Brody BR card from an energy cost of 4 less in your hand and play it. So you can discard a card when you lose one of your Brodies, and you can get one of these 3 targets out. I will show you which ones they are, because I may as well. So you can get either of these into play, and then they will trigger their on play autos and whatever else. So, but it's nice, just lets you build your board back if something should happen to it. But ideally you just go full on aggression and you don't have to worry about his other auto, because the deck is dirty like that. So start with, we'll go into the unison cards and extra cards. So unison wise, I have 3 copies of Kale, largely because, well, A, that's the only unison you really need in the deck, but also it's the only ones I have of Kale. So, but I feel like 3 is fine. You could bump it up to 4 by reducing one of the battle X cards easily. I'm not sure what off the top of my head, but it wouldn't be so difficult to replace, I suppose. There's a battle card in here that can definitely come out, and I will explain it later. But so Kale is a cost 1 unison. Her auto is, when this card is played, you look up 3 cards from the top of your deck, you add up to 1 mono red Saiyan card amongst your hand, and then place the rest at the bottom in any order. So just lets you search the deck for one of your Brody pieces, or a Paragus if you really want. And her secondary auto is, once per turn, when one of your red battle cards activates the swap skill, you add a marker. So it's not every time you activate swap, otherwise that'd be really dirty, but you know, you activate swap, you get a marker, which is pretty handy. And then her active main is, you -7. You choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards and it gets -15k power for the turn. Then choose up to one mono red battle card with an energy cost of 5 less and a swap skill from your hand and play it. So a lot of the time Kale just nukes herself to do that, but that's okay, because you can just do that to win the game and to get 3 battle cards. So, but yeah, this is the only unison you really want to run this, unless you want to play stuff like the Sin Shenron or Jiren. But it's the only one I use. It's the only one I think you really need in the deck anyway. And yeah, bump up to 4 if you want 4, but 3 works out just as well. So for the extra cards, we have 2 copies of Strategies of U7. So you pay nothing, active main, choose all your red Saiyan battle cards, or all red Saiyans in your battle area, and you gain barrier for until the end of your opponent's next turn. Just in there to protect your Brolys, just in case you can't go mad on your chain. So if you have to keep like the 4 drop out or the 3 drop out, you can just be like, well, I'll play this, leave it inactive, that way you can't touch it. Unless you just do a board clear. Next we have 3 copies of Planet Vampa. So this is a field and it's active main once per turn. If you lead it as a red Brody BR and you add 1 card from your life to your hand, you look up to 7 cards from the top of your deck, you play up to 1 red Brody BR, Paragus BR, Bar BR or Golemite BR with 5k power or less among them, shuffle your deck, and if you play the card, you discard a card. So the targets in this deck are, there isn't a Golemite because I didn't see the point in running it as a main deck card, but you can play out either one of these from its effect. Ideally you'd play Bar of Broly. Paragus is just there to be played by other skills, but if you see him on that search you may as well use him if you've got no other choice. And as far as I know, with Planet Vampa, it's only when you add a card from, like, during your own turn. Like, if your opponent smacks you, I don't think that counts. But you can easily trigger it with this guy's first active main, because you're just like, well, take life, gain crit, Planet Vampa, play a card, and then discard. And because of his, like, his first, well, his other active main letting you search a red extra card, you just go for Planet Vampa. And I only run the 3 copies because you only need to play 1, so once you see it you can just chuck the others because you don't need them. You don't need to replace it, it's got no replace effects, it's just the active main if you add a card from your life to your hand. And next we got the negates for the deck actually. So we got a single copy of Final Guardian. If you leave red, negate the attack, choose one of your battle cards and it gains 5k power for the turn. And then you can play it from your drop by removing it and a red card in your hand from the game, but you can only activate it once per turn. And yeah, it's just a one-off because you can activate it twice, so it doesn't matter. There's 2 Unending Awakenings. So again, negate the attack, choose a red Saiyan leader card that gains 5k power for the turn. So it's just a bit of power, and if your opponent's playing aggro, it's a nice defense against that. And our final negate is a single copy of Violent Rays. So this is counter attack. If your leader is red, you negate the attack, then you can choose to discard a card from your hand and gain one of the following effects. So you either stop your opponent from attacking with battle cards with 20k power or more for the turn, or your opponent can't attack with unison cards with 20k power more for the turn. So either stops them swinging a ball at you or swinging their unison, because their unison might be able to just like gain double strike or have a active battle effect that can give it more power and pressure. So it's just there as a nice tool card. And again, I only run the 1 because I have 1, but I feel like it works as a one-off. You're not going to be heavily reliant on it, and if you want to bump it up, I would just say swap out an Unending Awakening for it, or one of the strategies of U7 if you really want, but down to your own choice really. So starting with the 1 cost battle cards, we have 4 copies of Broly Saiyan Youth, which is the start of our swap chain. So he has 4k power, swap free, so if you're a red Broly BR leader, so just run it with this guy, you can play a Broly BR with cost of 3 by bouncing this back to your hand. If you have a red bar BR in play, so this card, he gains 11k power, and his auto stops you from playing another one for the turn. So you play one out, that's it for your turn. Next turn you can play another one. You can't just be like, oh, I'll spam 2, swap 2, and go like that, because that just makes things go crazy. And this deck is kind of dirty enough and crazy enough as it is, so it doesn't need to be faster. Next in the 1-drops, a bit of a gimmicky card I put in that I now realise I could easily take out, is 2 copies of Freezer Overture to Battle. So it's a 1 cost of 5k, it's got swap 2 into a red Freezer with cost of 2, and its auto is when you play this card from your hand, you choose one of your red lead or battle cards other than itself and give it 5k for the turn. I originally put this in as a gimmick card because I like having them just to trigger Kale. So if I had Kale on the board and I couldn't do Brody, I'd be like, well, play Freezer, give something 5k, bounce it, Kale gets a marker. He can come out the deck. Like, I've realised this now, he can just come out the deck. You could easily swap him. If you've got, like for example, the other Brody, the Brody Astonishing Potential, I have to remember what the name is. You could easily swap. I would probably go, that becomes 2 of them, bump this guy down to 3, and maybe take out one of the 1-drop Paraguses, or the 3-drop or the 2-drop Paragus. So I'd go Astonishing Potential becomes them, and keep this guy at 3. But could also, like I said, swap 3-drop Topo if you want. Put something else in that you just like, maybe Champer, so when your leader swings it's double crit as well. It's really expendable, and I did just put it in here as a gimmick, and I'm now like, actually, why is it still here? But I am going to stick with it for this profile because I use it in the game, and yeah, you can just keep it if you want. I might also just keep it because it just gives something 5k. If I haven't triggered Kale, I can trigger Kale, and yeah, just put more pressure through one of my Brodies. So, and our last 1-drop for the deck is 4 copies of Paragus Oath of Vengeance. So, like I said, 1-drop 4k. He has Unique and Overlord, because the 2 and 4 drop, no, the 3 and 4 drop Brody have Servant, although you're not really using this Overlord skill if I'm being honest with you. And he has the auto, when this card is played, you look up 5 cards from the top of your deck, you add up to 1 red Brody BR card or 1 red Unison card with a specified cost of 1. So Kale is your only target. The only target that exists actually. You add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. And then he just sits there waiting to do Overlord. You could bump him down to 3 for the Astonishing Potential, just something else. I have it at 4 because it's like, well, I do want to see it. I can play it for free using Planet Vampire or the 3-drop Broly. Plus, it's a searcher, so that's always useful. And it's not specified searcher unless it's Unison. Going to 2 costs now. We have 4 copies of Bar, Broly's first friend. So he's a 5k blocker, and his auto is when this card is played, you add up to 1 mono red Brody BR card, with an cost 5 less from your deck to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this is your ideal target for Planet Vampire if it's not going to be Broly, because you can go Planet Vampire, play Bar, get Bar, search, and then you can search what you need for the swap engine, and it's your target for this guy to gain his 11k boost. And then there's the, again, Astonishing Potential Brody, which I'd love to have but it's too expensive for me to justify at the moment. Lets you play Bar quite easily, so there's a nice little chain with that, but I just can't justify it. I really can't.
Sure you can.
No. So next we've got 3 copies of Paragus New Ambitions. So he's got 15k power. He has Overlord skill because the Paragus in his Flawless deck have Overlord, just to make the Servant part more useful. And his auto is you choose one card in your hand, discard it. When this card is placed in your drop area from your hand by a skill, you add up to one red Brody BR card with an energy cost 4 less from your drop to your hand. So if you dump him for any reason, you can discard another card to add a Brody back. This is your main discarder and kind of what's meant to be the ideal target when you do Vampire, but it's not hugely necessary, and because you have to discard another card when this gets discarded, it's one of those things that I'm like, I can't see myself running 4 of just because, like, I'm partially tempted to take it 2, but 3 is also good, so there's enough thing to remove for the promo. And the final 2 costs are our super combos for the deck. So I have 2 copies of Raditz Saiyan Youth and 2 copies of Strike Force Jace. So Jace, if your leader's a red Freezer Army card and your life's at 5 or less, you draw it and gains 10k combo power. Just put it in because I could use it on 5 with this guy instead of just using a 4 less life, and Sparking ones don't really activate in this deck. And then we've got 2 copies of our new one, the Raditz Saiyan Youth. So if your leader's red and your life's at 4 or less and all your energy is red, which is fine, it's a mono red deck. When he's using the combo, he gains 10k power. You can then put a card to the bottom of your deck, or put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck and then draw 2. But sometimes I just like having the +1. Just straight up, so hence 2 Raditz. But you can mix around whatever super combos you want. You don't have to run Jace, but if you're going for a 4 less life one, just put, like, if you go for a 4 less life that isn't Raditz, just go for Jace, it's 5 or less. May as well have that extra window, because why not? That's my reasoning anyway. So we've got 3 drops now. We have 4 copies of Broly Bonafide Saiyan. 100% purebred Saiyan there. Bonafide. So he has 9k power. He has swap 4. You pay 1 red to go into a mono red Broly BR with a cost of 4. He has Servant, so he gains 10k power, but then he can't be switched to active mode from rest. So if you swing him, that's it, he's stuck in rest. Or if something puts him in rest mode, you don't get back into active. But that's supposed to be where the blend of, like, Servant Overlord comes in, you swing it and then you put it to the bottom's drawer, but there's no point. Right there. I can't see it from here, so you have to give me a sec. And then his auto is when this card is played, you choose to 1 red Paragus BR with an energy cost of 1 in your hand and play it. So your only target is this guy, and this is unique, so you can't just do it every time you play him. But it's your way of playing Paragus for free if he's in your hand. And then because the Paragus has Overlord, you can trigger the Overlord Servant combination, but there's no need. And yet this is a must-off at 4, so is most chain really. But you definitely need this at 4, just so that your 1 drops become useful, and then you've got something to go into your 4 drops, which is the whole point. It's a swap deck. My other 3 cost card is 2 copies of Yamcha Merciless Barrage. So it's 15k counterplay. You can't activate any other counterplay skills for the turn when you activate this one. You choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and you get minus 15k power for the turn. Then you play them out. And if you have a red using card with 2 or more count markers on it, you can activate its skill without paying the cost.
You can say counters.
I know.
I realised you were going to say counters and then you change it to markers. It's like, it makes no difference.
Yeah, I don't know why. My brain was like, hang on. It's like, no, it's fine. So yeah, as long as Kale has 2 on her, you can play this for free. It's the only counterplay in the deck, so you don't have to worry about his the first part of his skill. It's basically like you can't play 2 Yamchas in a turn in this build. Oh no. But yeah, I put it in there because I was like, well, it's a free play counter play that I can have on the board, and like I can -2 things by 15, so I can slow down some aggression, or just like wipe down something that's going to be big. So yeah, it's just a nice little tech card. You can work with it, you can work without it, doesn't make a difference. I'm just running it because I can and I have it, so it's like, screw it, use it, make the most. I'm going into the rest of the deck now. It's just swap chain bits. So we have our 4-drop for the deck at 4 copies, which is Brody, Power of the Great Ape. So he has 10k power, swap 5 by paying 1 red. He has Servant, and then his auto is, if your leader is red, when you play this card, choose up to one of your red units cards, add a marker to it. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in the hand and sends to the warp. At the end of your opponent's next turn, they add the card back they sent to the warp. So, unless they send it anywhere else, then they don't get anything back. But, like I said, it's just swap in, place, get a marker, warp card in their hand. And then because he has Servant, he becomes a 20k beat stick. And for the 5-drop, again, we have 4 copies. So SS Brody Combat Evolution. He has 30k critical, swap 6 by paying 1 red. And if your opponent has 3 or more energy, or you have 4 or more energy, you go into the 6-drop Brody. And this guy has exactly the same auto as the Power of the Great Ape one. So you add a marker, they warp a card from their hand, they get it back at the end of their next turn. So these are pretty much the same. The only difference is Servant, 10k and crit. That's a big difference. But other than that, you just go one to the other. And then the 6-drop of the deck are the last cards in the deck. I only have 3 copies of this guy. And it's Super Saiyan Brody Unlimited Power. So he has 35k power, unique, critical and double strike. And his auto is, if your leader is red, when this card is played, you choose up to one of your red units and cards, add 2 markers to it, then choose up to 3 cards, then your opponent wait, I'm losing words. Then choose up to 3 cards in your opponent's hand and send them to the warp. Oh, I got to pick, but at random. It didn't really matter, I probably would have won anyway. I get to pick. I haven't picked any time I've played this. I'm smart. And then yeah, like the others, at the end of their next turn they add it back to their hand. I get to pick the cards at random. And it's up, I mean, it says up to 3, but why wouldn't you take 3 out their opponent's hand? I don't know, be smart. I guess it's in case they don't have 3 and it gets around any of that.
Basically, if they had 2 cards in hand,
they still lose them.
They still lose them. If it didn't say up to 3, you wouldn't be able to trigger it on any of the cards.
Yeah. But yeah, I only run 3 copies of this guy because he has unique, so you can only play 1 out at a time. And because I don't run the Chi Line Lemo, I don't have any way of bouncing this back, so my opponent would have to kill it. But even at 3, it's still quite consistent. You don't need to try and spam this guy out unless you really want to reduce their hand. But then, if you're going to do that, you'd play him out, combo him off, play a new one out, combo it off, play a new one out. So, but if you want to bump him to 4, you can. There's plenty of space in the deck. I mean, there's still like 10 cards you can add to the deck because it's a 50-card deck. But it is down to personal preference. I just think 3 is a good number because they're unique, and once you have them on board, you're basically pushing for game. So you shouldn't need any more than 1 in play, unless you shouldn't need any more than 3 in the deck. So very much like my other BR deck. I got controversy for having 3 of that, but oh well, it works. But there you go, guys. That is my Red Brody swap deck. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like I said, if Potential Unleashed, well, Starship Potential wasn't so expensive, I'd have it in the deck, but I'm going to wait and hope it gets cheaper, or just bite the bullet, but probably not at this rate. And as always, guys, see you next time. So, bye bye.